To the surprise of no one, Riot hasn't done a very good job recently at switching up the meta. Top laners are either ranged ADCs or big chunky tanks with the side of Camille. Jungle was the AP mage kingdom until this patch, where we are now back at stat stick champs. Mid with Tristana Corki, ADC is in the air with Ezreal slowly making his way back to the top, and support was Warmog's abusers. That being said, even with the most plain repeat champions we here at GameLeap, still find underrated champs to play, just in case you are also sick of the meta. So starting off top lane, we have Nasus. Oh yes, you heard that right, the doggy stack king is back in top, but with a less stacking playstyle. Unfortunately, Nasus Q Max is still a bit weak, as many of the top lane champs have insane early game kits that you just can't beat with auto attacks. However, the funny E ability you have paired with a Doran's Ring start unironically runs through the top meta right now, giving you lane priority and huge early poke damage. This style revolves around lowering your stack rate to let you scale into the mid and late game easier. You can beat ranged ADCs top with E maxing because of their low resistances, 3 E's and it's basically lane over for them. Versus tanks, you don't need to max E, but rather just take 3 points to get you through the early levels of 1 through to 6, and then after first base, you should be able to max Q and stack away. This champion is currently rated S tier on u.gg, so we aren't the only ones noticing this. Another top laner that has been sneaking her way back up top is actually the new champion Aurora. Aurora has found her home in the top lane for a few reasons. The first being she is ranged, but she doesn't have quite enough to allow her to be a mid laner. Her range is just enough to be able to kite top laners with her autos and abilities, so your job is to string the opponent along until they overcommit, or if you see an angle, to jump into the stealthy spirit realm and pop out for a kill. Aurora's main weakness right now is her lack of mobility once champions get on top of her, so top laners like Aurelia, Yone and Jax may not be in your favour, but versus tanks and ADCs, she actually does quite well. There is still a lot of research to be done about Aurora, so we will report back on our website GameLeap.com when we have a solid idea of her best builds, playstyle and limits. Indeed man, speaking of GameLeap, if you go ahead and click on the link down below at the top of the video description and sign up to GameLeap, you'll unlock access to hundreds of challenger guides and courses covering every single aspect of League of Legends you could possibly hope to master. We've got champion-specific courses, we've got laning guides and macro essentials, everything you need to fast-track yourself to challenger. So, sign up to GameLeap.com right now to master every single champion covered in this happy little video. Speaking of which, in the jungle, it is no question Shyvana is the best champion right now. Her raw ability to stat stick her way through games is borderline insanity, but we found a counter to this shape-shifting reptile in Lilia. Shyvana always goes out of meta for one particular reason: lack of mobility. It is this very reason why the birth of AP Shyvana came to be. Rather than attempting to stick on champions, Shyvana players opted for a nuclear fireball as their choice of warfare. This is where Lilia comes in. With Shyvana's early build requiring Shojin Rush, it means that she is still easily kiteable in the early stages of the game. Lilia's passive movement speed allows her to weave in and out of danger range until you sleep and watch out eep them for the kill. Now, if the Shyvana player opts for full AP, rushing Nasus first, then anytime you as Lilia lands one ability, you don't even need to kite. Just sleep her and one-shot her because she's so goddamn squishy. As the game goes on, Lilia only gets tankier and gains enough damage to scale up into infinity. An unchecked Lilia can solo carry a game with enough spacing skills. Another off-meta jungler that is reclaiming his throne is Javin. With all these immobile junglers and carries, it's been a wonder where the king of cataclysms has been, and it's because until this patch, any gank that Javin did would lead to a 2-level deficit regardless if it worked out or not. AP junglers and their clears were just that strong, but since Riot did a nerf on them this patch, it allows Javin to come back in and Demacia his way onto the battlefield. Now don't get it twisted, jungle clear speeds are still insane with Lilia, Udyr and Shyvana running around everywhere, so don't get too sidetracked with ganking. Instead, it is time to swallow your pride and fully opt into the Agurin playstyle, where you take very little risks to keep yourself in the game. This means don't flip ganks simply because one of your laners are begging for one. Identify and evaluate the map to see if it's worth skipping a camp or two for a play, or if it's better to keep on farming and fight objectives. Many junglers don't like this playstyle, and personally we don't either, but there are things that must be done for the sake of LP. If it's a high tempo killing machine that you're after, then go lock in Kindred. Now that we have more room for mid laners due to the imprisonment of Tristana and Corki, it is time for best champions to come out swinging. LeBlanc has found great success in this department as she was always the hidden counter to the meta. If you watched our previous videos, you would know we mentioned this prior, but now that the matchups for her have become easier, LeBlanc is running rampant with her early burst damage versus mages, ADCs, and her mobility allows her to outmaneuver these immobile junglers. Being able to avoid ganks and move for invades with your lane prio is what seals the deal on this kit because not many other mid laners can do it. Funnily enough, LeBlanc has become so strong the meta is warping around her with counterpicks such as Akshan, Sylas, Vex, and Galio starting to emerge. Again, as we mention every time, the key to LeBlanc is not to get so caught up with your early damage. While it's nice, if you stop farming and keep fighting, eventually this damage will dwindle down and you become quite useless. Always keep your primary focus on securing farm to keep ahead in the game. And just like we mentioned just now, the meta is slowly bending around LeBlanc, so our next suggestion for mid lane is going to be Vex. Vex has not been so covered for a while because it's been quite hard to slot her in without everything being in her favor. She's relatively short ranged, her job is to counter engages, and if put behind, you are just an inting machine if you use your ultimate. But right now, she's almost perfect. Most mids currently are back to short range engaged champs such as LeBlanc, Sylas, and Galio. The passive fear with W combo means that you are very safe throughout the lane phase and you can deter engages from supports who lock in engaged champs such as Leona. And with the other roles needing time to scale, it means you have a fair chance to impact the game as Vex, rather than being abused and shut out early by long-range mages. Winning mid is pretty hard to do as Vex since you are not considered a lane bully unless you face a melee mid such as Sylas, Yasuo, or Yone. So, the best way to impact the map is to use your spells on the wave to one-shot it and then roam top or bot depending on which lane has more carry power. If you can easily land an R, then by all means, do take the shot, but for a more secure gank, just walk behind them and press W when melee. Combo the fear up with a full spell rotation and it's easy pickings. Now in truth, ADC is in a bit of a messy state right now. A lot of different classes have been nerfed, so we're left with Zeri and Ezreal being at the top due to their scaling and safety in lane. Ashe, however, has been a solid pick with little to no counters in lane. She works well with every support but falls short in the hard carry department. Now that does not mean she cannot 1v9 games, but it does mean a little bit of help from another carry champion does go a long way. Ashe's strongest point in the game is levels 1 through 3. Level 1, her passive slow and damage increase on frosted targets gives you an incredible amount of damage output, and with a single misstep from the enemy, you can ban their flash by orb walking properly. Level 2, you take E and basically enable map hacks by shooting it across the map through the enemy jungle to find out where they started and where their pathing will take them. And level 3 is when you have Q, which means that you now have an auto reset and an attack speed steroid. At this point, you are able to take fights with the knowledge you've given yourself, and your range allows you to lane bully the enemy. At this point, just make sure you are spacing properly and backing up when you feel a hard engage is coming. Another ADC that is underrated and sniping kills from a distance is Jhin. Now, we're going to get the statement out of the way and say it. We're going to hate on this new Jhin build. It is purely for utility, and sadly, it is his best build. Rushing static Shiv into rapid fire cannon means your damage will be quite low until Infinity Edge or Lord Dominic's on item 3, but until then, you are able to control wave tempo and provide a lot of utility for your team. You might ask, why not Lethality Jhin or Collector Rush into Infinity Edge? Well, Riot hates fun, so they nerfed both of those builds. Lethality on ADCs is rough with all of the stat changes it gives to ranged users. You are slower than melee champions with your moves, and Collector has been nerfed to where even an Infinity Edge Rush is simply better. But Jhin counters both Zeri and Ezreal, which is why he is as high of a rank as we are putting him. You outscale Zeri because Zeri needs to auto multiple times and abuses her speed to space and out-mechanic teamfights. 1/3 shot into a Q 4th shot, and you can basically 2-tap Zeri no matter how fast she is after a certain point in the game. And Jhin has always been an Ezreal counter with the bonus movement speed you get from each crit auto. Pair it with Boots of Swiftness and you become the most impossible target for Ezreal Q to hit. Again, we don't really like this type of Jhin build, but it does work out and the LP is there for the taking. In support, there are 2 subclasses if you don't wish to pick our Lord and Savior Blitzcrank. You either pick Unstoppable Force or Divine Shielding. If you choose Force, then Leona is the champion for you. Leona being the OG hard engaged champion found her way back after the Warmog's buff, but even with the nerf, players have realized how insane it is to be able to engage from far distances with R or lock them down close with Q Flash. Pairing Leona with a team comp of multiple ADCs or battle mages means her CC spam is more powerful now than it has ever been before. If you choose Divine Shield, then Lulu has still cemented her stand as the poster child for the enchanted class, being able to deter hard engage with her poly and ult. And if the enemy engages too far, then Whimsy plus Lulu E means your ADC will kite and shred their way to victory. Lulu might seem like the simple boost up your ADC then let them do everything champ, but there is a lot of depth to Lulu many players do not consider even in Challenger. A highly skilled Lulu will play a battle mage-like playstyle, abusing Pix's bonus autos and Q ability early to rack up some early damage. Having the ability to self-peel with shield and poly means you have some degree of safety in the instance you aggress too far. These two supports are running away in the support role right now, so depending on your choice of playstyle, consider picking one of them up. And man, once more for the people at the back, if you want to master any champions covered in this happy little video, then make sure to visit GameLeap.com via the link down below at the top of the video description. Click that link, sign up to GameLeap, and unlock access to hundreds of Challenger guides and courses. For now, I want to thank all of you guys for watching. Hope you all did enjoy, and we shall catch all of you all just a tad bit later, man.